Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here and investing your time in improving your English and yourself. Have you ever realized that you learn a lot, watch a lot, but after a few days you almost remember nothing, as if everything you tried to learn just quietly disappeared and you cannot keep it? There was a time when I lived like that, watching videos every day, reading books, taking random notes, but when I needed to use them, my mind felt empty, like I had never learned anything. And the most frustrating thing was not that I lacked knowledge, but that I knew I had learned and understood before, yet I could not take it out when I needed it. Until I realized something very simple that completely changed how I learn and work. I was trying to use one brain to do the job of two. The truth is, your problem is not that you learn too little, but that you are trying to remember everything with your memory, while memory is the least reliable thing. You can spend hours watching a very good video, feeling like, wow, this is exactly for me, but after a few days you only remember a vague feeling that it was good. This is not because you are not smart, but because our brain is not designed to store too much detailed information. It is good at thinking, connecting ideas and imagining, but not good at long-term storage. But we still force it to work like a hard drive and then feel disappointed when it fails. I used to force myself to remember things in many ways, like rereading many times, taking very neat notes, or repeating in my head. But the more I tried to remember, the more tired I felt and the faster I forgot. Until I accepted one simple truth: you do not need to remember everything, you only need a place to find it again. The moment that changed everything was when I started to write down what really matters right when it appears. Not to make it look nice, not to make it full, but to use it later. For example, when you hear a good idea in a video, instead of thinking, I will remember it later, you stop for a few seconds and write it down in your own words. When you read a part of a book that makes you think, you don't just highlight it, but rewrite it in your own way. At first, this may feel a bit annoying because it slows down your content consumption, but in return, you start to keep what is truly valuable. It's like you're picking up small gems instead of letting them fall while you walk. And slowly, you will notice something interesting. You are no longer consuming content passively, but you start choosing, thinking, and deciding what is worth keeping. But writing things down is not enough, because if you just save everything without organizing, you will face another kind of overload. I once had a very long note file with hundreds of pages containing everything from ideas to quotes to random things. And when I needed to find something, I spent many minutes scrolling and still could not find what I needed. That was when I understood that without structure, notes are useless. You need a simple way to organize, clear enough so you can find anything anytime. It doesn't need to be complex, just based on what you actually use in life. For example, you can separate things into what you are doing, what you are learning, and what you want to use later. When everything is in the right place, you start to feel lighter because you know the information is not lost, it's just stored correctly. Another mistake I made was keeping everything as it was, thinking that more details were better. But when I came back to read, I couldn't understand my own notes because they were too long and messy. That was when I started doing something very simple: rewrite the important ideas in a shorter, clearer, and easier way, like you're explaining it to a friend, not copying from a book. This process not only helps you understand deeper, but also makes the knowledge truly yours. Because when you can explain an idea in your own words, it means you really understand it. And when you need to use it, you don't have to read a long text again, you just look at the simplified version. This saves a lot of time and makes learning much easier. But all the steps before mean nothing if you never use what you saved. I once fell into a common trap, thinking I was improving just because I had many notes.
But in reality, I didn't create anything from them until I started using what I saved in my work, in writing, and in solving daily problems. For example, when I need to write something, I no longer start from zero. I open my saved ideas, combine them, edit a little, and turn them into something new. When I face a problem, I remember that I read a solution before, and I can find it quickly. That's when I realized something important. The value is not in how much you know, but in how much you can use. And the second brain helps you do that. When you keep this system long enough, something interesting will happen. The knowledge you saved starts to connect in ways you didn't expect. An idea from months ago can become a perfect piece for a problem today. An old note can become the base for new content. And slowly, you no longer feel like you always start from zero. You are building an asset, not just consuming information. An asset that grows bigger the more you use it. In the end, the most important thing I learned is not a tool, but a different way of thinking. You do not need to remember everything. You only need to build a system you can trust. And when you have a place to store, organize, and use knowledge, your mind becomes free to do what it does best. That's thinking, creating, and connecting ideas that seem unrelated. Maybe today you just start with writing down one small idea, but over time, those small pieces will come together into something much bigger. A second brain that never forgets, always ready, and becomes stronger with your life. If you find this video interesting and helpful, please give me a like and subscribe.